Hello, friends. This is Chandrakant from Akulmach Technologies, and I welcome you all on this edition of CEO Roundtable. So, let me quickly introduce our panelists. First, Mr. Neville Gaunt, who is the chairman of Mindfit Limited, and he joins us from UK.
Good morning, everybody.
Second, Ms. Farida Charania, she is the CEO of Career Zone. She joins us from Singapore.
Hello, everyone.
And third, Ms. Kanchan Verma, she is the CEO of Akulmach Technologies, and she joins us from India.
Hello, everybody.
So I welcome you all, and the topic for discussion for today is really the work of the future, which is going to be digital. That's the topic for today, and what it takes to get on the digital bandwagon, because I think it's clear to everyone, all professionals, that digital is the way to go forward. But what it takes and what are the pitfalls, I think that is what we will discuss in this discussion today. So, Neville, you have an opinion on this subject.
I do have an opinion, but I'm going to let ladies go first here because we're trying to get more women back into the workplace because we've been sadly lacking that over the years, and their views and ideas I think should be aired first. So over to you, ladies. You can fight over who's going to go first, but over to you.
Okay, I'll take this.
Good.
Future of work has been discussed so much in the recent years, and in fact, I've had a 3 week discussion on future of work because we had a Thai Singapore event for 2 weeks, and now we have Singapore FinTech Festival. We have the Switch Festival. So, future of work has been discussed very extensively. In fact, the Singapore government has made an official statement saying that future of work is digital. And we are seeing that. Now, work is central to human experience because it provides income, identity, and meaning, right, to people's lives. And trauma of a job loss is second only to death of a loved one because it impacts a person really, really in a tough manner. There are a lot of things which are happening, but one of the things that kind of comes very starkly out of all of this is that globalization has happened at a very fast speed. And the COVID situation has accelerated this behavior by sudden shock, sudden action, because everyone was trying to grapple with the situation. So today we sit 1 year down into the pandemic by looking at our globalization, comfortable working from homes, comfortable working on projects in any part of the world. And then we also have our 3 A's of technology because automation, algorithms, and artificial intelligence. So that convergence has made it even easier. So people who can actually deliver their services online are finding new ways to do it. So I think future of work is going to be very gig based. It's no longer going to be a job. It's mostly going to be completion of task. And then most organizations have come to believe that strengthen the core and flex the non-core. So there are certain workers that you would kind of need on a regular basis, and those jobs probably are middle level jobs. But if you look at the very low level jobs, or you look at the very high end management level jobs, those are not a full time requisition. So for instance, if you take like a say a finance department, the CFO is probably someone who's a permanent fixture because they are required through the company's whenever the company actually needs them, so they need to be there. But then there are projects within that, audit projects which are again cyclical, or financial control activities which are again cyclical, and those might not be something that you need permanently or regularly. So these kind of jobs, they are high end but not permanent. Those would be divided as well. That's a trend that I'm seeing because this is my business. I talk to a lot of people who are hiring authorities, and this is what I hear from them. So I think future of work is going to look very different. It will create more jobs because artificial intelligence is not here to take away people's jobs. It's here to augment their experience. It will get them to do more work, but then whatever is repetitive will get replaced. Anything that can be a process that will get replaced. So when we talk about future of work, there are a lot of question marks, but the trend shows that, in fact, I read a research report very recently which says that in the US, 55% of senior management will actually be part of the gig economy. So they would be paid for completion of what has been assigned to them rather than just being there as a part of the company. So that's kind of my take on it. I'm open to discussion because this is an interesting topic and I'm sure it's close to many people's heart and to mind as well, because people would be tracking it.
So I feel that New Year is round the corner, and now we have lot of jobs and lot of educational platform, and many people have understood and they are coming on digital platform. Now, what I feel is the high demand job in 2021 will be accountant, HR professional, operations professionals, IT professionals, or web designer. Now, the need of the hour is people should be open to take up not one skill, but multiple skills. So I put it like maybe a hybrid role is what we are looking at. Somebody who's interested in doing administrative work, he should be open to do operational work also. And I also feel that jobs like designer, graphic designers, creatives, digital marketing specialists, these jobs will be in high demand. So last time we have done a discussion that is there any scarcity in job market? But what I feel is that no, we have to update our skills, and we should be ready to do hybrid roles.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And it's good that we're listening to, because Farida has had literally weeks of focused energy in a small country about a very important subject. What's going to happen to the future of our economy? Because this is where we are. This is not just about businesses, small, medium, and large. This is about the future of the economy. It's about the future of young people. Tomorrow's leaders. It's the future of our education systems. So this is such a big topic that we really need to get a grasp of. And I'd like to sort of throw two pennies in here with regards to looking at the global economy, and if you like, the way that corporates have been developing over the last few years. And it's worth looking at how they've been developing, because when I had a proper job last century, sort of in the 1980s and 90s, I was working in the oil industry. And one thing about the oil industry is that we collaborate with every other oil manufacturer, every other oil developer or oil investor. There's no other market, there's no other industry that collaborates like the oil and gas industry. So I would suggest that people just have a look at how the oil industry works, because I have a feeling that this is now going to set the trend for every other industry. And let me explain a little bit more. In the 1980s and 90s, the oil industry was suffering of oil prices. So the oil price was around about $18 a barrel. You had no say of what that value per barrel was, because it was a commodity on the international market. And in many respects, it was set by OPEC. So all you had was control of your intellectual property, in other words, your people, your expertise, and that's it. That's all you had control over. And this became very important to the way you now design your company going forward. And very simply, you decide what's core and what's non-core. You have to do both. Both are important to do. But what's core, you keep in-house. What's non-core, you outsource. And we are seeing, I think we're seeing, and I hope everyone agrees with me here, I think we're seeing more and more of the gig economy evolving from this non-core arena. So let's just take a very simple exercise for a small business. unless you're a printer, you don't actually, as a small business, print your own business cards. You go to a printer, you have a discussion with the printer, and you say, this is my logo, or can you help me design a logo? And typically a printer is a designer as well. So you design a logo, how it looks on the card. The printer will give you lots of examples of what it could look like. And then they go and do the job. That's a classic example of outsourcing. It's important to your business, but it's non-core. You're not going to go and buy a printing press. You're not going to go buy the ink and buy the paper and buy the card just to print 500 or 5,000 business cards. You're going to outsource that project. And in today's language, that's a classic example of the gig economy. It's project-based. It's defined. It has a start and an end. And most of it is done outside of your eyesight. And I think this is the bit that companies are going to struggle with. It's going to have to be done outside of their eyesight. And this is where COVID has really brought the issue to home, is that some managers are in this FOMO arena where they have to be looking over the shoulder of everybody else. So that isn't the way to go. So we need to, as organizations, I think we need to take a step back, look at what we have to do, decide what's core and non-core, and outsource the non-core. Because you're never going to outsource your intellectual property, because that's yours. You know, and for people that don't understand what intellectual property is, it's things that make you tick, that gives you the competitive advantage. So it makes you win the project against somebody else winning the project. So I think if we help organizations think a little bit more, so rather than talk about artificial intelligence and the impact on jobs, etc., just look at your business, decide what's core to you. What do you need to keep in-house that no one else can do? And then the rest is non-core, outsource it. And as Farida said, you know, there's thousands of people in that gig economy already. You know, freelancers is a word that we're going to be more and more used to as this gig economy starts to evolve. And this is where I think women have got a great opportunity, because you can choose the time you work. So that what that means is you can do all of your other, you know, chores at home. You know, whether you're a man or a woman, you choose your time to work. And there's nothing wrong with that, as long as it works for you. And this is the thing, we're going through a big transition here, and COVID has accelerated the transition, and it's a bit fearful for lots of people. But you need to just go with the flow and try and get ahead of that trend. As I say, this is a huge, huge subject, but I'm a bit more concerned about the 13 and 14-year-olds at school today that really aren't looking for their jobs. They're not looking into the workplace yet. But even if they did, it wouldn't look anything like it's going to be in 7 or 8 years when they join it.
So Neville, what I will address this in a way is that I will break it down into two broad segment. One is the public segment, which is the government-owned enterprises, and other is the private segment. The use of AI is very, very relevant when it comes to the government or public offices. And I will just quote few examples of the Indian government. They have been adapting very rapidly the use of AI when it comes to large applications like revenue collection, because in a country like India, it's a humongous task. Income tax filing. So a few months back, Indian government announced that for all individuals, 1.3 billion people, or roughly about 1.2 taxable people, there will be a faceless tax calculation. So the faceless basically means that you have a file, you will have a number, but who actually compute your tax in the back end is not in your control. So, there is a very heavy deployment of AI because the assessment officer can be from anywhere in India. You can be located in Mumbai. Your assessment can happen out of Calcutta. So, and next time, after a few months, the same person's assessment can happen out of Chennai. So I think there is a very heavy deployment of AI in the government sector. But when it comes to private sector and especially the mid segment and the startup community, uh, the gig economy is really shaping up. In fact, it is already there in a very big way. And all the marketing gurus are saying that almost 50% of the workforce for the private consumption would be contract labor. So whether you are senior or whether you are a junior guy, almost 50% of those workforce will come on contract. So as Farida said, if you are a CFO material, you will be part of gig economy, and your deliverables will be dependent on your experience and what value you bring. As Neville also said, value proposition, IPR, and those kind of things. So all these concepts are very relevant, and people have to learn to use these techniques to drive their paychecks when it comes to gig economy. It cannot happen that a person with 20 years experience in finance go for a go at the same price as a 2 years experienced person. But the price, the valuation, the equity will be driven by the person himself, what he can bring on the table as a gig employee. So I think that I would like to address it this way so that we can focus on only 50% of the market, which is the private sector. And of that, 50% is going to be gig, and rest of this will be managed um, by the virtual office. So since I'm making the comment about virtual office, the uh, age of brick and mortar establishment is slowly going away. Google has already announced that for 3 years they will not call their employees back to work, and that means they're allowing their employees to work from home, and that brings a peculiar situation because now the managers will have to live with the personal life of the employee while they are delivering work. So I think the challenge in terms of adapting gig economy is there, but at the same time there is also a social angle which is coming up and becoming very relevant. So Kanchan, what do you have to say about that?
What I feel, I just want to tell our panelists that by 2022, we are coming up with a new parliament with the paperless function. So, what I have, I'm quite optimistic when it comes to digital platform because there are some addition and there are some usual practices which you have to leave as a professional. So when I suppose if I am a company owner and I have to hire, so I have to hire people with a different skill set, and at the same time I have to take care about the employee wellness and satisfaction. So that is where I feel we are moving towards that. And about for generation of revenue, I think there's no initially in 2020 there was a little dip, but now it's accelerating, and people are finding out small opportunities and big opportunities, and they are ready to cope up with this new change, and they are also very easygoing when it comes to digital platform. They are learning new skill in digital arena. So what I feel, though Chanka had explained the economy aspect, but what I feel maybe in coming years, like Singapore, they've already announced there will be all digital working platforms for everything. So I'm quite optimistic, and I feel that yes, we have to hire, we have to take up different skill set. Company owners have to hire maybe more contingent of workforce, and they have to be flexibility in their investment. And yes, employees should be ready to work double roles.
I like to pick up here. So, Kanchan just mentioned that employees should be happy at work. And yesterday I was part of a HR roundtable, a CXO roundtable, and there was a poll which was conducted. And out of the 5 or 6 things that CHROs are looking for, the most important thing was that they are finding it extremely difficult to keep the employees engaged in isolation, because there are new joiners who have joined, and we are all social animals, so it's very difficult to keep employees engaged. But having said that, I think there will be a solution. It's a drivable behavior and people will get used to it over a period of time, and it could be taken care of. But I think the good part which is coming out of this is that it makes the cost variable. So you have the same amount of money to spend in your resources, but you have flexibility, fluidity, and optionality, as I would put it, because you are able to choose where you want to invest that money or where you want to spend that money. And also, we are looking at re-aggregated organizations, because now everyone is looking at a flexible. So, like I said in the beginning, that strengthen the core and flex the non-core, right? So it's, so that's what I see. Like the stomach muscles are tightened, and the arm muscles are being flexed, because you want to make sure that it's movable. It can be, money could be put where you actually need it to work. So it's not all that bad, but at any point in time when there is a change, it's never sudden, because it comes over a period of time. This is a very, very different situation, because COVID response actually, accelerated everything. But any which ways, this is nothing new, because people were going towards that way. And gig economy, because there were so many platforms which came up providing opportunities for gig workers. There are so many freelancers now who basically work for 6 months a year and take the next 6 months off, because that's the lifestyle that they choose. So it's not all that bad, but it's not all that hunky-dory, because at any point in time, any change takes time, and change is always difficult. So it's going to be a lot of moving pieces, but when you are mid-air, you don't have the option to land and fix something if something is broken. So there is no hard reset. We all need to, move with the times and get used to it and try to fix things mid-air. So I think the only way forward is adapt and move on.
That's a really good way to be. Adapt and move on. I mean, we are built to be adaptable, by the way. We are physically born to be adaptable, to think differently. Now is the time when it's going to come up to use it. I think I'd just like to throw in a bit of a wild card here, in that in the UK, we also rely, despite the fact that this gig economy has been around for some time, we have something called IR35, which I wouldn't worry about, but basically it's easier for the government to deal with a PAYE, in other words, an employee of an organization, because you're taxed at source. It's not so easy, actually, to deal with contractors, because you have to rely upon them supplying their information. Taxi drivers, chefs, I mean, all of this gig economy arena that we've been used to for so long. And interestingly enough, in the last 2 years, the tax authorities in the UK, I was talking to a senior tax inspector literally earlier this week, and I just said to her that the tax arena in the UK is going against the trends of work. So the trends of work are gig economy. So you've got lots and lots of projects that you're going to be working on, which means you are an independent. You're a consultant. You are no longer an employee of an organization. And yet all the tax implications over the last 2 years have tightened up, actually, to stop the gig economy growing. So although, Chandra, you say about we need to think of the public sector and the private sector from an employee point of view, which is slightly different, we need to remember that the private sector is dictated to by the public sector tax regime, the environment that we are allowed to operate within. So what it means is, for a lot of people out there, they need to think about looking after their own taxes. Now, this is a huge issue, to be honest with you, Because if you're an employee, you leave school at 16, 18 or 21 and you go and work for a company, they just take care of all of your taxes. No matter where you are in the world, you know, they pay your taxes for you. They take it out of your salary and you don't have to worry about it until the year end. But then you know that you've probably paid just about the right amount of tax. When you move into the gig economy, you're now responsible. So you now become an entrepreneur. You really do need to think differently. And this is what we're not getting people ready for, to be part of the gig economy. But there's going to be loads of work out there. I have no doubt in my mind whatsoever that if you want to work, there'll be work there. AI will create more work than actually taking jobs away. And I think Farida said that already. So, the biggest issue here is we need to be preparing people for the future. So part of this round table here, I think, hopefully, is not just telling people what to expect next year, but for those younger people, what to expect in 7 or 8 years' time. Because now you need to get yourself ready for this. It's coming. Please don't think it's not coming. It will be different in 7 or 8 years' time than it is today. But get yourself ready for that change. Find out what's going on out there currently. If you're not in full-time work and you're in full-time education, now's the time to find out what's happening in the world. And you could actually be part of that gig economy tomorrow, because there's lots of opportunities for you to put what you've got out there, whether you're a designer, any type of practitioner, whether you do art or anything like that, something that's of interest to you, you can actually start to put yourself out there. One thing I would say is the work trends of the future will be the same as today. Your network will be your most valuable asset. So network with as many people as you can, which will make you a better person anyway, but it will give you options for the future. So go and join Facebook, go and join LinkedIn, join the groups, get that experience. So no matter what age group, you can start doing something for yourself. We've covered a huge amount of ground here today, Chandra. I'm not too sure quite where we were going to go with this, because it's never scripted. People just say what they feel. But for me, it's been enlightening, because we are talking globally here, and people can be listening from a global perspective.
So,
I'd
Neville,
like to just I like to add something to this. So one way is basically, preparing people for the future. But I also feel that the younger generation is getting prepared without any, special effort. The reason is that people like me, we have never used a typewriter, because by the time we grew up and started working, you were already computerized and, you were trending towards that. So I didn't need special training to move from typewriter to the computer. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I think nowadays the kids, they actually, hardly use a laptop or a desktop, because they have their smart tabs or smartphones and they use everything on that. So they are getting prepared. So, in a way that if you look at it, one way is, people who are probably, in the mid of their career, they need preparation more than the younger kids, because we will have to adapt. But them, they are already adapted and they are moving forward because they don't know anything else. This is the way that they've been growing up. If my child tomorrow is kind of referred to as a gig worker, my child is going to give like a look, what? Because everyone is going to be a gig worker in some form or the other. So yes, I think the preparation is more for us who still have a few more years to go in our career, but not so much for the younger people.
So I think all the panelists have made very good point, and I would like to summarize by giving information to our viewers. And some of these points are related to the taxation, as Neville said, and also about preparation, as Farida said, and also Kanchan talked about multitasking, ability to do multiple jobs to stay relevant. So I would like to make two. I would like to provide two information to the viewers, which are very relevant because if people are preparing for the future, the Indian government, and India is a very large country with a lot of people. India has already moved ahead, and today in the digital payment arena is number one, and that is sheer because of the number of citizens we have here. And by no means I'm saying that we are covering the entire India. The people who are using the online tax platform or online tax payment platform are not more than 20%, but that 20% takes you ahead globally because the sheer numbers are very large. So the government of India realized that the Indian workforce has to be ready for gig economy for next 5 years, and that is why they have introduced something called GST, which is a very big project. And for last 2 years, all businessmen are filing their returns online every month. So we are moving away from the traditional method of filing tax returns every year. We are making money, depositing tax every month, and moving on. And for doing that, certain businesses are also getting incentives because if you are doing that on time, then the government of India will calculate incentives and return some of these tax to you after a quarter or so. So I think that the activity is stabilizing. It is not completely stable. It is stabilizing, but people have got used to this GST formula, where when you receive a payment, the GST is automatically calculated and paid to the government. So it is no longer a difficult situation for anyone to remember what expenses they incurred at the end of the year, how much money they made, and accordingly, they should not be worried about that they have not paid the taxes. So I think that portion of problem has been taken care largely. The second one, in order to support all these people, 1.3 billion people, or maybe half of that, you need a very strong network. When I say network, is basically the physical network which will allow bandwidth, and that has been a big problem, and not for India, but I think for it's a global problem. That is why we're talking about 5G, or Elon Musk is talking about Starlink. But 2 days back, a very ingenious plan has been introduced in India. It is called PM Vani. So, for the benefit of Neville, let me translate Vani. It is an abbreviation of Wide Area Network of India, but Vani actually in our local language means voice. So PM is Prime Minister. So it's a program which has been launched just 2 days back, and what that will enable is everyone in their household without any licensing will be able to share their Wi-Fi. So, for example, if we have a Wi-Fi, I can share it, and if somebody is walking by outside the house, and if they are hooked on to that Wi-Fi, they can use my Wi-Fi. Basically, every individual with Wi-Fi can create a Wi-Fi network within his home or office or shop, and that will increase the bandwidth. Like it will solve the bandwidth problem. Now, Wi-Fi will be available across length and breadth, and that will solve a lot of these problems of reaching out, launching new applications like virtual office, tax filing on the move, and things like that. So I think, as you said, Neville, this is a very large subject. We are just giving information and asking our viewers to get ready. And if they are not ready yet, I think it's high time to get ready with the gig economy, because 40 to 50% of the people will be contract employees, whatever it takes.
Very true.
So if there are no comments, I would like to close the discussion for today. And we will catch up next week. And thank you for finding time to join us this week. And really pleasure talking to you to discuss this very important subject, which affects all of us.
Thanks,
Thank you
CK.
very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Thank you for sharing your time with us. Thank you, and have a good weekend, everyone. Bye for now.
Cheerio.
Bye.